And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year thereof, Reu took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of Ur, the son of Kesed. And she bare him a son, and she called his name Sarai, in the 7th year of this week, in this Jubilee. And the sons of Noah began to war on each other, to take captive and to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood, and to build strong cities, and walls, and towers. And individuals began to exalt themselves above the nation, and to found the beginnings of kingdoms, and to go to war, people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city. And all began to do evil, and to acquire arms, and to teach their sons war. And they began to capture cities, and to sell male and female slaves. And Ur, the son of Kesed, built the city of Ara of the Chaldees, and called its name after his own name, and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol, the molten image which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, and malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness. And the prince Mastema exerted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin, and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and destroy, and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name of Sarai Serug, for every one turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother. And he worshipped idols, and he took to himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof. And her name was Melchah, the daughter of Caber, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bare him Nahor, in the 1st year of this week. And he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees. And his father taught him the researches of the Chaldees, to divine and augur, according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Ijaska, the daughter of Nestag of the Chaldees. And she bare him Terah, in the 7th year of this week. And the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land, in order to destroy the land, and rob the children of men of their labors. Before they could plow the seed, ravens picked it from the surface of the ground. And for this reason he called his name Terah, because the ravens and the birds reduced them to destitution and devoured their seed. And the years began to be barren, owing to the birds, and they devoured all the fruit of the trees from the trees, and it was only with great effort that they could save a little of all the fruit of the earth in their days. And in this 39th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year, Terah took to himself a wife, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Abram, the daughter of his father's sister. And in the 7th year of this week she bare him a son, and he called his name Abram, by the name of the father of his mother, for he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, and all that went astray after graven images, and after uncleanness. And his father taught him writing. And he was 2 weeks of years old, and he separated himself from his father, that he might not worship idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all things, that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanness and vileness. And the seed time came for the sowing of seed upon the land, and they all went forth together to protect their seed against the ravens. And Abram went forth with those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, And Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, Descend not, return to the place whence ye came. And they proceeded to turn back. And he caused the clouds of the ravens to turn back that day 70 times. And all of the ravens throughout all the land where Abram was, there settled not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back, and his name became great in all the land of the Chaldees. And there came to him this year all those that wished to sow, and he went with them until the time of sowing ceased, and they sowed their land. And that year they brought enough grain home, and eat, and were satisfied. And in the first year, the 5th week, Abram taught those who made implements for oxen, the artificers in wood, and they made a vessel above the ground, facing the frame of the plow, in order to put seed thereon. And the seed fell down therefrom upon the share of the plow, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens. And after this manner they made vessels above the ground on all the frames of the plows, and they sowed and tilled all the land, according as Abram commanded them, and they no longer feared the birds. And it came to pass in the 6th week, in the 7th year thereof, that Abram said to Terah his father, saying, Father. And he said, Behold, here am I, my son. And he said, What help and profit have we from those idols which thou dost worship, and before which thou dost bow thyself? For there is no spirit in them, for they are dumb forms, and a misleading of the heart. Worship them not. Worship the God of heaven, who causes the rain and the dew to descend on the earth, and does everything upon the earth, and has created everything by his word, and all life is from before his face. Why do ye worship things that have no spirit in them? For they are the work of men's hands. And on your shoulders do ye bear them, and ye have no help from them. But they are a great cause of shame to those who make them, and a misleading of the heart to those who worship them. Worship them not. And his father said unto him, I also know it, my son, but what shall I do with the people who have made me to serve before them? And if I tell them the truth, they will slay me, for their soul cleaves to them to worship them and honor them. Keep silent, my son, lest they slay thee. And these words he spake to his 2 brothers, and they were angry with him, and he kept silent. And in the 40th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 7th year thereof, Abram took to himself a wife, and her name was Sarai, the daughter of his father, and she became his wife. And Haran, his brother, took to himself a wife in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, and she bare him a son in the 7th year of this week, and he called his name Lot. And Nahor, his brother, took to himself a wife, and in the 60th year of the life of Abram, that is, in the 4th week, in the 4th year thereof, Abram arose by night, and burnt the house of the idols. And he burnt all that was in the house, and no man knew it. And they arose in the night, and sought to save their gods from the midst of the fire. And Haran hasted to save them, but the fire flamed over him, and he was burnt in the fire. And he died in Ur of the Chaldees before Terah his father. And they buried him in Ur of the Chaldees. And Terah went forth from Ur of the Chaldees, he and his sons, to go into the land of Lebanon, and into the land of Canaan. And he dwelt in the land of Haran. And Abram dwelt with Terah his father in Haran 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 5th year thereof, Abram sat up throughout the night on the new moon of the 7th month, to observe the stars from the evening to the morning, in order to see what would be the character of the year with regard to the rains. And he was alone as he sat and observed. And a word came into his heart, and he said, All the signs of the stars, and the signs of the moon and of the sun, are all in the hand of the Lord. Why do I search them out? If he desires, he causes it to rain, morning and evening. And if he desires, he withholds it, and all things are in his hand. And he prayed that night and said, My God, God most high, thou alone art my God, and thee and thy dominion have I chosen. And thou hast created all things, and all things that are the work of thy hands. Deliver me from the hands of the evil spirits who have dominion over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed forever, that we may not go astray from henceforth and forevermore. And he said, Shall I return unto Ur the Chaldees, who seek my face, that I may return unto them? Am I to remain here in this place? The right path before thee, prosper it in the hands of thy servant, that he may fulfill it, and that I may not walk in the deceitfulness of my heart, O my God. And he made an end of speaking and praying, and behold, the word of the Lord was sent to him through me, saying, Get thee up from thy country, and from thy kindred, and from the house of thy father, unto a land which I will show thee, and I shall make thee a great and numerous nation. And I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be blessed in the earth. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And I will be a God to thee and thy son, and to thy sons' sons, and to all thy seed. Fear not from henceforth and unto all generations of the earth. I am thy God. And the Lord God said, Open his mouth and his ears, that he may hear and speak with his mouth, with the language which has been revealed. For it had ceased from the mouths of all the children of men from the day of the overthrow of Babel. And I opened his mouth, and his ears, and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Hebrew, in the tongue of the creation. And he took the books of his fathers, and these were written in Hebrew, and he transcribed them, and he began from henceforth to study them. And I made known to him that which he could not understand, and he studied them during the 6 rainy months. And it came to pass in the 7th year of the 6th week, that he spoke to his father and informed him that he would leave Haran to go into the land of Canaan, to see it and return to him. And Terah his father said unto him, Go in peace. May the eternal God make thy path straight, and the Lord be with thee, and protect thee from all evil, and grant unto thee grace, mercy, and favor before those who see thee. And may none of the children of men have power over thee to harm thee. Go in peace. And if thou seest a land pleasant to thy eyes to dwell in, then arise, and take me to thee, and take Lot with thee, the son of Haran, thy brother, as thine own son. The Lord be with thee. And Nahor thy brother leave with me, till thou returnest in peace, and we will go with thee all together. And Abram journeyed from Haran, and he took Sarai his wife, and Lot, his brother Haran's son, to the land of Canaan. And he came into Ashur, and proceeded to Shechem, and dwelt near a lofty oak. And he saw, and behold, the land was very pleasant from entering of Hamath to the lofty oak. And the Lord said to him, To thee and to thy seed will I give this land. And he built an altar there, and he offered thereon a burnt sacrifice to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And he removed from thence unto the mountain, Bethel on the west, and Ai on the east, and pitched his tent there. And he saw, and behold, the land was very wide and good, and everything grew thereon, vines and figs and pomegranates, oaks and ilexes and terebinths, and oil trees, and cedars, and cypresses, and date trees, and all trees of the field. And there was water on the mountains. And he blessed the Lord, who had led him out of Ur of the Chaldees, and had brought him to this land. And it came to pass in the 1st year, in the 7th week, on the new moon of the 1st month, that he built an altar on this mountain, and he called on the name of the Lord. Thou, the eternal God, art my God. And he offered on the altar a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord, that he should be with him, and not forsake him all the days of his life. And he removed from thence and went towards the south. And he came to Hebron. And Hebron was built at that time. And he dwelt there 2 years. And he went thence into the land of the south, to Bealoth. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of the week. And he dwelt in Egypt 5 years before his wife was torn away from him. Now Tanais in Egypt was at that time built 7 years after Hebron. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh seized Sarai, the wife of Abram, that the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Abram was very glorious by reason of possessions in sheep and cattle and asses and horses and camels and men servants and maidservants, and in gold and silver exceedingly. And Lot also, his brother's son, was wealthy. And Pharaoh gave back Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out of the land of Egypt. And he journeyed to the place where he had pitched his tent at the beginning, to the place of the altar, with Ai on the east, and Bethel on the west. And he blessed the Lord his God, who had brought him back in peace. And it came to pass in the 41st Jubilee, in the 3rd year of the 1st week, that he returned to this place, and offered thereon a burnt sacrifice, and called on the name of the Lord, and said, Thou, the Most High God, art my God forever and ever. And in the 4th year of this week, Lot parted from him. And Lot dwelt in Sodom, and the men of Sodom were sinners exceedingly. And it grieved him in his heart that his brother's son had parted from him, for he had had no children. In that year when Lot was taken captive, the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot had parted from him, in the 4th year of this week, Lift up thine eyes from the place where thou art dwelling, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest I will give to thee and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the sand of the sea. Though a man may number the dust of the earth, yet thy seed shall not be numbered. Arise, and walk through the land, in the length of it, and the breadth of it, and see it all, for to thy seed will I give it. And Abram went to Hebron, and dwelt there. And in this year came Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and Amraphel, the king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Salasar, and Turgal, king of the nations, and slew the king of Gomorrah. And the king of Sodom fled, and many fell through wounds in the vale of Siddim by the salt sea. And they took captive Sodom, and Adam, and Zeboim, and they took captive Lot also, the son of Abram's brother, and all his possessions, and they went to Dan. And one who had escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive, and Abram armed his household servants. For Abram and for his seed, 1/10 of the first fruits to the Lord. And the Lord ordained it as an ordinance forever, that they should give it to the priests who served before him, that they should possess it forever. And to this law there is no limit of days, for he hath ordained it for the generations forever, that they should give to the Lord the 10th of everything, of the seed, and of the wine, and of the oil, and of the cattle, and of the sheep. And he gave it unto his priests to eat and to drink with joy before him. And the king of Sodom came to him, and bowed himself before him, and said, Our Lord Abram, give unto us the souls which thou hast rescued, but let the booty be thine. And Abram said unto him, I lift up my hands to the Most High God, that from a thread to a shoe latchet I shall not take aught that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich, save only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. These shall take their portion. After these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the new moon of the 3rd month, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a dream, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy defender, and thy reward will be exceeding great. And he said, Lord, Lord, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go hence childless? And the son of Masech, the son of my handmaid, is the Damasek Eliezer. He will be my heir, and to me thou hast given no seed. And he said unto him, This man will not be thy heir, but one that will come out of thine own bowels, he will be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said unto him, Look toward heaven, and number the stars, if thou art able to number them. And he looked toward heaven, and beheld the stars. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee the land of the Canaanites, to possess it forever. And I will be God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And he said, Lord, Lord, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built there an altar, and sacrificed all these. And he poured their blood upon the altar, and divided them in the midst, and laid them over against each other. But the birds he divided not. And birds came down upon the pieces, and Abram drove them away, and did not suffer the birds to touch them. And it came to pass, when the sun had set, that an ecstasy fell upon Abram. And lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall bring them into bondage, and afflict them 400 years. And the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge, and after that they shall come forth thence with much substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall return hither, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set, and there was a flame. And behold, a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To thy seed will I give this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, the Phacharites, the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. And the day passed, and Abram offered the pieces, and the birds, and their fruit offerings, and their drink offerings, and the fire devoured them. And on that day we made a covenant with Abram, according as we had covenanted with Noah in this month. And Abram renewed the festival and ordinance for himself forever. And Abram rejoiced, and made all these things known to Sarai his wife. And he believed that he would have seed, but she did not bear. And Sarai advised her husband Abram, and said unto him, Go in unto Hagar, my Egyptian maid, and it may be that I shall build up seed unto thee by her. And Abram hearkened unto the voice of Sarai his wife, and said unto her, Do so. And Sarai took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. And he went in unto her, and she conceived and bare him a son. And he called his name Ishmael, in the 5th year of this week. And this was the 86th year in the life of Abram. And in the 5th year of the 4th week of this jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram celebrated the feast of the first fruits of the grain harvest. And he offered new offerings on the altar, the first fruits of the produce, unto the Lord, and an heifer, and a goat, and a sheep on the altar as a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered upon the altar with frankincense. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am God Almighty. Approve thyself before me, and be thou perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him and said, Behold, my ordinance is with thee, and thou shalt be the father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name from henceforth, even forever, shall be Abraham. For the father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee very great, and I will make thee into nations, and kings shall come forth from thee. And I shall establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, throughout their generations, for an eternal covenant, so that I may be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. The land where thou hast been a sojourner, the land of Canaan, that thou mayest possess it forever, and I will be their God. And the Lord said unto Abraham, And as for thee, do thou keep my covenant, thou and thy seed after thee, and circumcise ye every male among you, and circumcise your foreskins, and it shall be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the child on the 8th day ye shall circumcise, every male throughout your generations, him that is born in the house, or whom ye have bought with money from any stranger, whom ye have acquired, who is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house shall surely be circumcised, and those whom thou hast bought with money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, her name shall no longer be called Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son by her, and I will bless him, and he shall become a nation, and kings of nations shall proceed from him. And Abraham fell on his face, and rejoiced, and said in his heart, Shall a son be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? And Abraham said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Yea, and Sarah also shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant, and for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael also have I heard thee, and behold, I will bless him, and make him great, and multiply him exceedingly, and he shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to thee, in these days, in the next year. And he left off speaking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham did according as God had said unto him. And he took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and whom he had bought with his money, every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And on the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of his house, and all those whom he had bought with money from the children of the stranger were circumcised with him. This law is for all the generations forever. And there is no circumcision of the days, and no omission of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. And every one that is born, the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to the children of the covenant which the Lord made with Abraham, but to the children of destruction. Nor is there, moreover, any sign on him that he is the Lord's, but he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth, and to be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of the Lord our God. For all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation, and before the angels of the presence and the angels of the sanctification he hath sanctified Israel, that they should be with him and his holy angels. And do thou command the children of Israel, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance, and they will not be rooted out of the land. For the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among all the children of Israel. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, the Lord did not cause to approach him. And he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. And he sanctified it, and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his. And over all hath he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. But over Israel he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler. And he will preserve them, and require them at the hands of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his, and he may be theirs from henceforth forever. And now I announce unto thee that the children of Israel will not keep true to this ordinance, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this law. For in the flesh of their circumcision they will omit this circumcision of their sons, and all of them, sons of Beliar, will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from the Lord against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant, and turned aside from his word, and provoked, and blasphemed, inasmuch as they do not observe the ordinance of this law. For they have treated their members like the Gentiles, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land. And there will no more be pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sins of this eternal error. And on the new moon of the 4th month we appeared unto Abraham at the oak of Mamre, and we talked with him, and we announced to him that a son would be given to him by Sarah his wife. And Sarah laughed, for she heard that we had spoken these words with Abraham, and we admonished her, and she became afraid, and denied that she had laughed on account of the words. And we told her the name of her son, as his name is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets, and that when we returned to her at a set time, she would have conceived a son. And in this month the Lord executed his judgments on Sodom and Gomorrah and Zeboim, and all the region of the Jordan, and he burned them with fire and brimstone, and destroyed them unto this day, even as, lo, I have declared unto thee all their works, that they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornication in their flesh, and work uncleanliness on the earth. And in like manner God will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanness of the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. But Lot we saved, for God remembered Abraham, and sent him out from the midst of the overthrow. And he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till his time. For the man lay with his daughters. And behold, it was commanded and engraven concerning all his seed on the heavenly tablets, to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no seed of the man on earth on the day of condemnation. And in this month Abraham moved from Hebron, and departed, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur in the mountains of Gerar. And in the middle of the 5th month he moved from thence, and dwelt at the well of the oath. And in the middle of the 6th month the Lord visited Sarah, and did unto her as he had spoken, and she conceived. And she bare a son in the 3rd month. And in the middle of the month, at the time of which the Lord had spoken to Abraham, on the festival of the first fruits of the harvest, Isaac was born. And Abraham circumcised his son on the 8th day. He was the first that was circumcised according to the covenant which is ordained forever. And in the 6th year of the 4th week we came to Abraham, to the well of the oath, and we appeared unto him, as we had told Sarah that we should return to her, and she would have conceived a son. And we returned in the 7th month, and found Sarah with child before us, and we blessed him, and we announced to him all the things which had been decreed concerning him, that he should not die till he should beget 6 sons more, and should see them before he died, but that in Isaac should his name and seed be called, and that all the seed of his sons should be Gentiles, and be reckoned with the Gentiles. But from the sons of Isaac one should become a holy seed, and should not be reckoned among the Gentiles, for he should become the portion of the Most High. And all his seed had fallen into the possession of God, that it should be unto the Lord a people for his possession, above all nations, and that it should become a kingdom and priests and a holy nation. And we went our way, and we announced to Sarah all that we had told him, and they both rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And he built there an altar to the Lord who had delivered him, and who was making him rejoice in the land of his sojourning. And he celebrated a festival of joy in this month 7 days, near the altar which he had built at the well of the oath. And he built booths for himself and for his servants on this festival. And he was the first to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles on the earth. And during these 7 days he brought each day to the altar a burnt offering to the Lord, 2 oxen, 2 rams, 7 sheep, 1 he-goat, for a sin offering, that he might atone thereby for himself and for his seed. And as a thank offering, 7 rams, 7 kids, 7 sheep, and 7 he-goats, and for their fruit offerings, and their drink offerings. And he burnt all the fat thereof on the altar, a chosen offering unto the Lord for a sweet-smelling savor. And morning and evening he burnt fragrant substances, frankincense, and galbanum, and stacte, and nard, and myrrh, and spice, and costum, and all these 7 he offered, crushed, mixed together in equal parts, and pure. And he celebrated this feast during 7 days, rejoicing with all his heart and with all his soul, he and all those who were in his house. And there was no stranger with him, nor any that was uncircumcised. And he blessed his Creator, who had created him in his generation, for he had created him according to his good pleasure. For he knew and perceived that from him would arise the plant of righteousness for the eternal generations, and from him a holy seed, so that it should become like him who made all things. And he blessed and rejoiced, and he called the name of this festival the festival of the Lord, a joy acceptable to the Most High God. And we blessed him forever, and all his seed after him throughout all the generations of the earth, because he celebrated this festival in its season, according to the testimony of the heavenly tablets. For this reason it is ordained on the heavenly tablets concerning Israel, that they shall celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days with joy, in the 7th month, acceptable before the Lord, a statute forever throughout their generations every year. And to this there is no limit of days, for it is ordained forever regarding Israel that they should celebrate it, and dwell in booths, and set wreaths upon their heads, and take leafy boughs and willows from the brook. And Abraham took branches of palm trees, and the fruit of goodly trees, and every day going round the altar with the branches 7 times a day, in the morning, he praised and gave thanks to his God for all things in joy. And in the 1st year, the 5th week, Isaac was weaned in this jubilee, and Abraham made a great banquet in the 3rd month, on the day his son Isaac was weaned. And Ishmael, the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, was before the face of Abraham, his father, in his place, and Abraham rejoiced and blessed God because he had seen his sons and had not died childless. And he remembered the words which he had spoken to him on the day which Lot had parted from him, and he rejoiced because the Lord had given him seed upon the earth to inherit the earth. And he blessed with all his mouth the Creator of all things. And Sarah saw Ishmael playing and dancing, and Abraham rejoicing with great joy. And she became jealous of Ishmael, and said to Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman will not be heir with my son Isaac. And the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight, because of his maidservant, and because of his son, that he should drive them from him. And God said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight, because of the child, and because of the bondwoman. In all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken to her words, and do them. For in Isaac shall thy name and seed be called. But as for the son of this bondwoman, I will make him a great nation, because he is of thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and placed them on the shoulders of Hagar and the child, and he sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the bottle was spent, and the child thirsted, and was not able to go on, and fell down. And his mother took him, and cast him under an olive tree, and went and sat her down over against him, at the distance of a bowshot, for she said, Let me not see the death of my child. And as she sat, she wept. And an angel of God, one of the holy ones, said unto her, Why weepest thou, Hagar? Arise, take the child, and hold him in thine hand, for God hath heard thy voice, and hath seen the child. And she opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled her bottle with water, and she gave her child to drink, and she arose and went towards the wilderness of Paran. And the child grew and became an archer, and God was with him, and his mother took him a wife from among the daughters of Egypt. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Nebaioth, for she said, The Lord was nigh to me when I called upon him. And it came to pass in the 7th week, in the 1st year thereof, in the 1st month in this jubilee, on the 12th of this month, there were voices in heaven regarding Abraham, that he was faithful in all that he told him, and that he loved the Lord, and that in every affliction he was faithful. And the prince Mestema came and said before God, Behold, Abraham loves Isaac his son, and he delights in him above all things else. Bid him offer as a burnt offering on the altar, and thou wilt see if he will do this command, and thou wilt know if he is faithful in everything wherein thou dost try him. And the Lord knew that Abraham was faithful in all his afflictions, for he had tried them through his country and with famine, and had tried him with the wealth of kings, and had tried him again through his wife, when she was torn from him, and with circumcision, and had tried him through Ishmael and Hagar, his maidservant, when he sent them away. And in everything wherein he had tried him, he was found faithful, and his soul was not impatient, and he was not slow to act, for he was faithful and a lover of the Lord. And God said to him, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here am I. And he said, Take thy beloved son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and go unto the high country, and offer him on one of the mountains which I will point out unto thee. And he rose early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took his 2 young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood of the burnt offering. And he went to the place on the 3rd day, and he saw the place afar off. And he came to a well of water, and he said to his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad shall go yonder, and when we have worshipped, we shall come again unto you. And he took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they went both of them together to that place. And Isaac said to his father, Father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said unto him, Behold the fire and the knife and the wood, but where is the sheep for the burnt offering, father? And he said, God will provide for himself a sheep for a burnt offering, my son. And he drew near to the place of the mount of God, and he built an altar, and he placed the wood on the altar, and bound Isaac his son, and placed him on the wood which was upon the altar, and stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay Isaac his son. And I stood before him, and before the prince Mastema, and the Lord said, Bid him not to lay his hand on the lad, nor do anything to him, for I have shown that he fears the Lord. And I called to him from heaven, and said unto him, Abraham, Abraham. And he was terrified, and said, Behold, here am I. And I said unto him, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything to him, for now I have shown that thou fearest the Lord, and hast not withheld thy son, thy firstborn son, from me. And the prince Mastema was put to shame, and Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a ram caught by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered it for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called that place, The Lord hath seen, so that it is said that the Lord hath seen, that is, Mount Sion. And the Lord called Abraham by his name a second time from heaven, as he caused us to appear to speak to him in the name of the Lord. And he said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord. Because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy beloved son, from me, that in blessing will I bless thee, and in multiplying will I multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is on the seashore. And thy seed shall inherit the cities of its enemies, and in thy seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed. Because thou hast obeyed my voice, and I have shown to all that thou art faithful unto me in all that I have said unto thee, go in peace. And Abraham went to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelled by the well of the oath. And he celebrated the festival every year, 7 days with joy, and he called it the festival of the Lord, according to the 7 days during which he went and returned in peace. And accordingly has it been ordained and written on the heavenly tablets regarding Israel and its seed, that they should observe this festival 7 days with the joy of festival. And in the first year of the first week, in the 42nd Jubilee, Abraham returned and dwelt opposite Hebron, that is, Kirjath Arba, 2 weeks of years. And in the first year of the third week of this Jubilee, the days of the life of Sarah were accomplished, and she died in Hebron. And Abraham went to mourn over her and bury her. And we tried him to see if his spirit were patient, and he were not indignant in the words of his mouth. And he was found patient in this, and was not disturbed. For in patience of spirit he conversed with the children of Heth, to the intent that they should give him a place in which to bury his dead. And the Lord gave him grace before all who saw him, and he besought in gentleness the sons of Heth. And they gave him the land of the double cave over against Mamre, that is, Hebron, for 400 pieces of silver. And they besought him, saying, We shall give it to thee for nothing. But he would not take it from their hands for nothing, for he gave the price of the place, the money in full. And he bowed down before them twice. And after this he buried his dead in the double cave. And all the days of the life of Sarah were 127 years, that is, 2 jubilees and 4 weeks in 1 year. These are the days of the years of the life of Sarah. This is the 10th trial wherewith Abraham was tried. And he was found faithful, patient in spirit. And he said not a single word regarding the rumor in the land, how that God had said that he would give it to him and to his seed after him. And he begged a place there to bury his dead, for he was found faithful, and was recorded on the heavenly tablets as the friend of God. And in the 4th year thereof he took a wife for his son Isaac, and her name was Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, the brother of Abraham, the sister of Laban, and daughter of Bethuel. And Bethuel was the son of Milcah, who was the wife of Nahor, the brother of Abraham. And Abraham took to himself a 3rd wife, and her name was Keturah, from among the daughters of his household servants, for Hagar had died before Sarah. And she bare him 6 sons, Zimram, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Dishbak, and Shua, in the 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 2nd year thereof, Rebekah bare to Isaac 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. And Jacob was a smooth and upright man, and Esau was fierce, a man of the field, and hairy, and Jacob dwelt in tents. And the youths grew, and Jacob learned to write, but Esau did not learn, for he was a man of the field and a hunter, and he learnt war, and all his deeds were fierce. And Abraham loved Jacob, but Isaac loved Esau. And Abraham saw the deeds of Esau, and he knew that in Jacob should his name and seed be called. And he called Rebekah, and gave commandment regarding Jacob, for he knew that she too loved Jacob much more than Esau. And he said unto her, My daughter, watch over my son Jacob, for he shall be in my stead on the earth, and for a blessing in the midst of the children of men, and for the glory of the whole seed of Shem. For I know that the Lord will choose him to be a people for the possession unto himself, above all peoples that are upon the face of the earth. For behold, Isaac my son loves Esau more than Jacob, but I see that thou truly lovest Jacob. Add still further to thy kindness to him, and let thine eyes be upon him in love, for he shall be a blessing unto us on the earth from henceforth unto all generations of the earth. Let thy hands be strong, and let thy heart rejoice in thy son Jacob, for I have loved him far beyond all my sons, and he shall be blessed forever, and his seed shall fill the whole earth. If a man can number the sand of the sea, his seed also shall be numbered. And all the blessings wherewith the Lord hath blessed me and my seed shall belong to Jacob and his seed alway. And in his seed shall my name be blessed, and the name of my fathers, Shem, and Noah, and Enoch, and Mahalalel, and Enos, and Seth, and Adam. And these shall serve to lay the foundations of the heaven, and to strengthen the earth, and to renew all the luminaries which are in the firmament. And he called Jacob before the eyes of Rebekah his mother, and kissed him, and blessed him, and said, Jacob, my beloved son, whom my soul loveth, may God bless thee from above the firmament, and may he give thee all the blessings wherewith he blessed Adam, and Enoch, and Noah, and Shem, and all the things which he told me, and all the things which he promised to give me, may he cause to cleave to thee and to thy seed forever, according to the days of heaven above the earth. And the spirits of Mestema shall not rule over thee or thy seed, to turn thee from the Lord, who is thy God from henceforth forever. And may the Lord God be a father to thee, and thou the firstborn son, and to the people alway. Go in peace, my son. And they both went forth together from Abraham. And Rebekah loved Jacob with all her heart and with all her soul, very much more than Esau. But Isaac loved Esau much more than Jacob. And in the 42nd Jubilee, in the 1st year of the 7th week, Abraham called Ishmael and his 12 sons, and Isaac and his 2 sons, and the 6 sons of Keturah and their sons. And he commanded them that they should observe the way of the Lord, that they should work righteousness, and love each his neighbor, and act on this manner amongst all men, that they should each so walk with regard to them as to do judgment and righteousness on the earth, that they should circumcise their sons according to the covenant which he had made with them, and not deviate to the right or the left of all the paths which the Lord had commanded us, and that we should keep ourselves from all fornication and uncleanness, and renounce from amongst us all fornication and uncleanness. And if any woman or maid commit fornication against you, burn her with fire, and let them not commit fornication with her after their eyes and their heart, and let them not take to themselves wives from the daughters of Canaan, for the seed of Canaan will be rooted out of the land. And he told them of the judgment of the giants, and the judgment of the Sodomites, how they had been judged on account of their wickedness, and had died on account of their fornication, and uncleanness, and mutual corruption through fornication. And guard yourselves from all fornication and uncleanness, and from all pollution of sin, lest ye make our name a curse, and your whole life a hissing, and all your sons to be destroyed by the sword, and ye become accursed like Sodom, and all your remnants as the sons of Gomorrah. I implore you, my sons, love the God of heaven, and cleave ye to all his commandments, and walk not after their idols, and after their uncleanness, and make not for yourselves molten or graven gods, for they are vanity, and there is no spirit in them. For they are a work of men's hands, and all who trust in them trust in nothing. Serve them not, nor worship them, but serve ye the Most High God, and worship him continually, and hope for his countenance always, and work uprightness and righteousness before him, that he may have pleasure in you, and grant you his mercy, and send rain upon you morning and evening. And bless all your works which ye have wrought upon the earth, and bless thy bread and thy water, and bless the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, and the herds of thy cattle, and the flocks of thy sheep. And ye will be for a blessing on the earth, and all the nations of the earth will desire you, and bless your sons in my name, that they may be blessed as I am. And he gave to Ishmael and to his sons, and to the sons of Keturah gifts, and they sent them away from Isaac his son, and he gave everything to Isaac his son. And Ishmael and his sons, and the sons of Keturah and their sons, went together and dwelt from Paran to the entering in of Babylon in all the land which is towards the east, facing the desert. And these mingled with each other, and their name was called Arabs and Ishmaelites.